He's playing with a stacked deck. He went to that team knowing that he could go to the Super Bowl playing for that organization because that team was incredible before he got there. It's the Kevin Durant move all over again, is what it is.
Yes, sir. Terrell Davis had 2,476 yards during the 1998 season, including the playoffs. Saquon Barkley needs 30 yards to break that record and 53 yards to have the first 2,500-yard rushing season in NFL history, including the playoffs. This is something a little different for y'all, for our listeners, for our viewers. Started off with that stat, got straight into the episode right here. Your host, Tone, Mr. Still Not Worried. And I am joined by the family, Greg, Miles, and y'all know the face. Y'all going to hear the voice and you know it. Griffin Proc. Proc Flock is in the building for this episode. Fellas, how y'all doing?
Doing good.
Good on my end. Happy to be back. Happy to see the boys again. It's always great to be invited back on the podcast, so appreciate you guys.
Anytime you can have Proc Flock back on here, man, it's a great day. You know what I'm saying? We need something to balance out Miles' nonsense, so this is good. This is a good day.
Before we get into it, I was not able to find the sound, but I will put it in the background in the after edit. Hand claps, round of applause is needed. Boom, 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 bum, bum, bum. For Griffin Proc, he was at the national championship for the college football playoff game. Huge congratulations for you on that. How was that for you? How are you feeling? What was the experience like?
I appreciate that shout out, Tone. I mean, it was once in a lifetime. It came out of nowhere, you know, so I was just as surprised as everyone else. And the support from the Threads community, like yourself and everybody else, was incredible. And it was once in a lifetime because I cover sports, you know, for fun on the side, and to be able to actually cover it for a living for a weekend, it was pretty cool across the board, being able to access media days, the players up close, the coaches, and then be able to go on the field and watch the game and just be really honored and privileged to be a part of that situation across the board. So shout out to Threads for doing that, and shout out to everyone else that supports my content across the board, because at the end of the day, I still feel kind of like this new fish in a big pond of the sports world, you know? So it's everyone that's supporting my content to get me to this point. And yeah, it was honestly surreal and a great game across the board. I know you guys probably watched it. Ohio State's dominance took over. Notre Dame battled back, but then Ohio State eventually closed the door on them. So couldn't be more excited about the future of the sports world, because it just feels like the beginning, a good way to start off 2025 personally.
Facts. 2025 has been off to a very, very nice start. Somebody that's had a good 2024 and 2025 is Saquon Barkley. With the stats I just put out there, is Saquon having the greatest season by a running back? And for those that's watching and listening, this is not by any means an attempt to try to throw salt on the wound of our Giants aficionado on the show. We're not doing that like some of y'all are on social media rubbing it in Giants fans' faces. Greg said he's at peace. He's not missing Saquon. So this is not about that. This is just about how great the season is. How great of a season do you think the Saquon season is?
I mean, it's kind of interesting because I can tell Greg isn't actually at peace at it. You know, when I look at him from a distance, I'm kind of this like secondary party here. I'm like that long lost cousin that comes back to the show for a little bit. I can tell Greg's not okay with it, you know, and I wouldn't be either. To see someone go on and do great things, like I'm excited for Pete Carroll as a Seahawks fan going to do some Raiders things. And so I would hope Greg feels the same way about his friend in Saquon Barkley. But to say it's the greatest season of all time as a running back or somewhere in that range is fair. He's definitely setting records across the board, but I think we're disrespecting those individual seasons that unfortunately ended short. I think about those LaDainian Tomlinson eras for a second. Those Chargers teams couldn't make it past the wild card to save their lives, but LaDainian Tomlinson was setting records every time. And similar to Derrick Henry a few years back, where they made it to the AFC Championship with huge 2,000-yard seasons. And so Saquon being on this level where he didn't only carry his team and help, but there was other aspects with like a great defense and Jalen Hurts really coming alive. Because they're in the Super Bowl, it's easy to get a little hyperbolic and say it was the greatest season of all time or put it in that category. but I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit. If he wins a Super Bowl here and he's a big part of that to continue this narrative, I think we can continue to have that conversation. But it's hard to compare eras. It's hard to compare different situations. But Saquon definitely is having one of those historic seasons.
Miles, I know you've watched the Eagles more closely than any of us. How do you view this season by Saquon?
I feel like Greg's watched it because he's a fan of Saquon. So, of course, he's tapped into. I think this is one of the best seasons of all time, and he's on a crazy heater right now as far as you feel like every time he touches the ball, he's going to take it to the crib. And, that burst that might have been lacking in New York, he's got it back in Philly. So this is going to be a fun game to watch in a couple weeks or next week. Hopefully he carries the team and gets them over the hump because they're going to need him to. He's, the face of the franchise and one of the faces of the league. So sky's the limit. He could do this every year for the Eagles, honestly. Like, they got the pieces. They got the line. Everything you need for Saquon is there for him. So he's in the perfect spot to do what he does.
He is in a very perfect spot to do what he does. I mean, you saw Will Shipley rip off like a 30-yard run at the end of the game, running behind those four or five Pro Bowlers, one Hall of Famer on the offensive line with the Eagles. It's like running behind Secret Service. They just clear the way. And so, as great as Saquon is, to sit here and tell me that it's one of the greatest seasons for running back ever, I'm not hating. Like, okay, it's a great season. One of the greatest. Eric Dickerson played this game. Barry Sanders played this game. Daniel Thomason played this game. Come on, guys. The list is long. Okay? And so to sit here and tell me that, we're going to look at this season as if it's one of the greatest of all time, it's just a big stretch. He's playing with a stacked deck. He went to that team knowing that he could go to the Super Bowl playing for that organization because that team was incredible before he got there. It's the Kevin Durant move all over again is what it is. It's the same thing. You join a 73-9 team, right? An incredible team, and people are going to be literal. They're going to go apples to apples. People are idiots. You're going to go, the Eagles weren't as good as the Warriors were. The Eagles weren't undefeated, or they lost in the playoffs in the first round, whatever. You know what I mean, fool? Like, it's the same core nucleus that went to the Super Bowl previously and played against the Chiefs in the past and that last Super Bowl. It's the same core, same great team. Last year they struggled. This year they revamped their defense, and you added Saquon to the mix. So, man, don't give me that. Like, Saquon knew what he was doing, and it's a great season, but I'm not like, oh my God, he's the greatest running back of all time because he's running behind that offensive line. They literally went to the Super Bowl with Miles Sanders running behind that line, guys. They can go to that Super Bowl with Miles Davenport running behind that offensive line. So don't start. Don't start with me, man.
Are you okay, Greg? I feel like you mentioned you were under the weather earlier today.
No, this is what I was saying. I could just see it in Greg's face. I felt like he wasn't okay with
Greg was ready. He was ready to, slander Saquon.
I didn't slander anybody. I didn't
tired of
a great season, but let's slow. In the context of this conversation, slow down. Slow down. That's all I'm saying. It's a great season, but one of the greatest. Come on, guys. And what I'll say too is, I really don't feel no kind of way about the Saquon situation. The only thing, Griff, what annoys me about the Saquon situation? The only thing I'm mad about, and I was saying it when he was here in New York, they should have traded him. If New York were going to sign him, then trade him and get value for him, and you control where that sucker goes. You can't just walk off to the Eagles. At least you got something for him.
That's fair.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
you know what I'm saying? You should have at least traded him instead of letting him walk for nothing. If they fired Joe Shane for that, it was a fireable offense. I'm with that. But that annoyed me that we didn't trade him and get value. And that's what pisses me off about the Saquon situation. That's the only thing. Other than that, I don't mind that he's gone. It's fine. I didn't want him here because he's going to help me. I get 6 wins. I get 6 wins this year instead of 3. And then I'm further away from drafting a quarterback this year, right? As if they didn't screw that up on their own without Saquon being here or winning that extra game against the Colts. Man, whatever, yo. Saquon. What's Saquon do
Sucker.
for me?
You got me 50%. You say some good things and then you hit me with that. Like, we don't even want him. And I was like, all right.
No, I don't. I'm serious. If you're a rebuilding football team and he helps you win 2 or 3 more games than you already did, you're in the Raiders situation.
Honestly, it's not his problem. It's Tommy DeVito's winning you a few more games than you should. You should have.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that. The defense forced 12 turnovers in those games he played. 4 games, 12 turnovers. That's why we won those games. Tommy's ass.
You guys beat the Seahawks. I'm with you. You guys won games you shouldn't have won. It was ridiculous for that aspect. I get you on that.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and the reason why, that defense. But it's all right, though.
Looking at the quarterback position, we kind of talked about this. One of these days, we might have to add Griff to our chat. But, you know, that's a touchy subject, which we'll talk about off air. But a part of our chat, Griff, to let you in, and our listeners and our viewers let you in, we were having conversation. I ask my fellow co-hosts, my brothers, every week, like, yo, is there any specific topics y'all want to touch on? And Miles put out there that he wanted to touch on Jalen Hurts' legacy if they win, right? Greg scoffed that in and said, what are we talking about here? We should be talking about Patrick Mahomes' legacy. So, in regards of legacy with these quarterbacks, right? What's a bigger legacy boost for these quarterbacks? The Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes getting a three-peat, or Jalen Hurts being the quarterback that stops the three-peat, that stops history from happening? And I know Greg has a specific viewpoint on this because there's a team that stopped the dynasty and the Patriots with Eli Manning and is forever heralded for what they did those times against the Patriots.
It's really interesting across the board. There's so many aspects you could go into. I think Jalen Hurts will enter kind of a Russell Wilson-like legacy if he's able to take them down across the board. We saw Russell Wilson take down Peyton Manning in this amazing defense in Denver and then almost take down the Patriots. So it would have been kind of a similar situation in a back-to-back year, taking down Tom Brady. And that could be a similar setup here, but Russell had that Super Bowl at that point. So when I look at whose legacy will be more impacted, I honestly think it'll be Jalen Hurts in a more positive way if he can take them down. But he will still be in the forgotten quarterbacks of winning a Super Bowl all time. Like we said, they have a great defense. They have a ton of good offense and a ton of good weapons. You'll see Russell Wilson's not getting a lot of credit for that Super Bowl 10 years plus pass. It's all about the Legion of Boom. It's all about Marshawn Lynch, and it's all about Pete Carroll. Russell gets some credit, but it's not as much. And I feel like Jalen Hurts will unfortunately fall into that category if they win, because Saquon Barkley will need to rip off a 70-yard rush plus a couple more to get a couple more over the top. Their defense will need to get a couple turnovers, maybe intercept a little Malcolm Butler type situation, if you will, from the Patriots and now onto the Chiefs kind of situation. So with Patrick Mahomes, he's already on Mount Rushmore. You know, another Super Bowl will help. It'll add to his legacy. But, you know, Tom Brady was doing this stuff across the board. There's more he needs to chase in that aspect. This definitely will put him in another stratosphere, even though he's in his own stratosphere. But Jalen Hurts is looking to enter the chat of the Lamar Jacksons and the Josh Allens of the world, and the Joe Burrows, to get a little bit more respect. So I think he has a little bit more on the line here in terms of a boost, if you will.
But I want to hear Miles' thoughts on Jalen Hurts and what this does for his legacy, because I know you ready to prop him up into Cooperstown, or where to go, or Canton. Canton. It was sent to Cooperstown too. You put him in the baseball too.
I didn't say all that. I said his legacy would be well improved. Like if he would have won 2 years ago, which that football game that he played, he outplayed Mahomes, would have been a legacy defining game if they had, you know, the refs didn't shake things up a little bit towards the end. So if they're able to pull it out this game, like Jalen Hurts played really well in the last game. I know you like to knock him, say he's a glorified running back and all this stuff, whatever. I mean,
he's a running back that can throw the passes occasionally. Yeah.
Okay. He wins. You want a guy who's a proven
winner,
a proven leader.
I would win too.
No, you would. I've seen you throw.
You never see me throw.
So Jalen Hurts coming out of Alabama, you know, everything stacked against him, gets benched for Tua, goes to Oklahoma, proves himself, and then he's almost taken as a luxury pick behind Carson Wentz. Who would have thought? So for him to come from second-round pick, turned his career into what it's been, where all-time like rushing touchdowns leader. For what it's worth, you'll say the tush push and all that stuff, whatever. But for him to come over here and take that team that some teams, if you lose a quarterback like a Carson Wentz, who at the time was an MVP candidate, it takes them a lot longer to recover than that. And they haven't missed a beat because they have this guy who is a calming voice in the locker room. He leads those guys on the field. I mean, last year was a rough year, but they bounced back. It's like, I think last year was more of a blip than anything. So the fact that they're back in the Super Bowl, I mean, you can say it's all Saquon, but Jalen Hurts is a huge part of that.
Last year was a blip, but
yeah, and they changed coaches. And then what happened?
That's okay. Last year they changed coaches. Okay, so they changed coaches, and the start of this season, Jalen Hurts was struggling just as much as he was the year previously, to the point where A.J. Brown, the star receiver, was reading books on the sideline, and we hear about how they hate each other and don't want to talk to each other. And by the way, the only reason why a receiver hates his quarterback is because you're not throwing him the football. It's the only reason why they hate you. It ain't about women. It ain't about nothing. But they all share women anyways. It's about not catching the football. That's what it's about. So, and not getting the football thrown your way, or quarterback being inaccurate. And by the way, Jalen Hurts did not play well this year. He did not. There is film of that all year. He has not played well. What has gotten him to the Super Bowl is an improved defense. Vic Fangio's done an incredible job of the defense and completely turned it around. Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell turned the defensive secondary around. They already had the pass rushers in place, so we already know that's going to be good because on both lines. Both sides of the football, with the offensive line and defensive line, they get after it. They're one of the best teams in the trenches, if not the best team in the trenches on both sides of the ball in the league, which is why they're here. And the defensive secondary played at a high level all year long. That's the bottom line. And then you have Saquon Barkley. So when Jalen Hurts was throwing bounce passes all year and skipping rocks to receivers, then you could just hand the ball to Saquon. Saquon get you something. Screen pass to Saquon. Saquon get you something big. The explosives came from Saquon Barkley, and then everything else kind of, he pitched in. He managed them. He managed the game. That's what he did all year. He managed the game. Does he deserve credit for that? Yes. He's not turning the football over. Give him credit. But legacy, I don't talk about legacies for game managers. It's cool. It'd be like if Brock Purdy won a championship. Like, you won a championship, that's great. Like, or the 49ers. If Brock Purdy won a championship, I'd be like, the 49ers won a championship because they're a great team that's well constructed. Give all the credit to that GM. And Brock Purdy was a quarterback of that team. Oh yeah, that's cool. I forgot about that too. That's how I look at it. And by the way, I'm not saying. By the way, Brock Purdy is better than that.
Doesn't mean anything anymore. So winning the Super Bowl doesn't mean anything. That's what you.
I say. Of course it does. He gets to wear a ring. He gets to give his little sermon after the game and all that. Like, of course, it's a big deal.
It's not like he's the Pope. It means something. Like, this will be the second championship. Something Donovan McNabb hadn't done. Something that Randall Cunningham couldn't do.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
You brought Donovan McNabb. Is Jalen Hurts a better quarterback than Donovan McNabb? If he wins the championship, is he a better quarterback than Donovan McNabb?
Did Donovan McNabb win a Super Bowl?
No, don't do that. Is he a better?
He's a little more consistent. Donovan McNabb was a little more reckless out there. He threw it a little.
Donovan McNabb a better quarterback than him, man. Let's just keep it a stack. He's better thrower of the football. Who's the better thrower of the football?
Sure, yeah. If I wanted somebody to throw a ball.
Huh? What did you say?
No, yeah. If I wanted somebody to throw the football, I'd definitely do Donovan McNabb. But he definitely had a little bit of a little recklessness to him that I didn't love all the time.
Well, yeah. I'm not saying he was perfect, but I'm saying that guy operated. He was a better quarterback than Michael Vick. He didn't win a Super Bowl. He was a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts can't hold that guy's jockstrap. Okay, Jalen Hurts is.
I think the name of the game is winning, right?
And why are they winning?
Guys like Josh Allen for not having all the accolades.
Okay, look, we won't have legacy talk. Let's do this instead.
Okay.
If this team wins, who was the first person you're going to give? This Eagles team wins, and don't do that. This Eagles team win. Who was the first person you're giving credit to? And if you have a line, you're lining everybody up from the front office to the players in the field. Who was the first person that deserves credit? I'm going to tell you who. Griff is funny. Hey, the first guy that's going to get credit is Howie Roseman, the GM. He's the first guy that gets credit because he's built an incredible football team from the inside out. That is why these guys are able to be successful. From trading to A.J. Brown, to drafting Devontae Smith, to building those lines, defensive and offensive, to getting Cooper DeJean, to getting Quinyon Mitchell, to getting Slay. He's done a phenomenal job building a football team. He's trading for Zach Bond, who did nothing over there in New Orleans, and all of a sudden he's one of the best linebackers in the sport. That's who deserves the credit. We're gonna look at him first. You want to talk about legacy? Let's talk about his legacy. He don't want to go with Canton for this. Jalen Hurts ain't even gonna be in a conversation with Canton. That's why I said, what are we talking about for a legacy? Why are we talking about his legacy for? There's no discussion. You know what? Jalen Hurts is fortunate, and he works his butt off to be in a position where he went from being a running back in college to being able to play the quarterback position in the NFL. He's a fortunate dude. It's great that he's here. This is awesome. Let's just celebrate the fact that he's here. If he had never won a Super Bowl, but he was able to play the quarterback position functionally in the NFL, that's a huge win. Praise God. All glory be to God. Go to church every Sunday and thank God. All right, go for the offensive play.
Yeah, you're making it seem like he's on his way out.
Yeah,
he's 26 years old. It's not like he falls off a cliff.
Wait, so I think Russell Wilson's a great comparison here, because if he wins the Super Bowl, he'll enter that kind of stratosphere of getting it behind a great defense and a running back that carried the team. But Russell's going to Canton, right? Griff. You saying Russell's not going to Canton?
Jalen Hurts isn't a quarter of the throw of the ball that Russell Wilson was, even at that point when they weren't letting him cook over there. His deep ball is crazy. He was cooking. The Houdini act, making guys
downfall.
Yeah. Okay, fine. But when he was making dudes miss, you remember the magic act that Russell was, like making guys miss, throwing the ball off platform, the different angles, trajectories in the football, the moon balls to Tyler Lockett, Golden Tate when he was there. Don't even do that. Let's not compare them.
Hold on. So winning a championship doesn't put you in a different category. You just stay in that, this guy sucks category.
Well, I ain't say he sucks. I'm just saying like he just won
this is a fancy way of saying it.
Didn't Trent Dilfer win a Super Bowl? Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl, right, with the Ravens? That team, 2000.
Yes. Trent Dilfer has a Super Bowl.
All right, so like, what is that? So what's his legacy? What's his legacy? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he's a middle of the pack quarterback who happened to win a Super Bowl on the backs of great players being all around him. Saquon Barkley, great offensive line, all that. He's okay. He's cool. It's Jalen Hurts. He's cool. He's not the best quarterback in his division. Jaden Daniels is way better than him. Dak Prescott is way better than him. Jaden Daniels is way better.
He agrees with you from his couch. He's agreeing with you from his couch. So
yeah, okay. Like that. Listen, you want to sit there and ignore everything that he has. So what's his like? So then I'm making my case here. You get I'm gonna ask you a question you don't want to answer. You love to do this. Can you please tell me what does it do for his legacy when he wins the Super Bowl? How should we look at him, Miles? Please tell me. Go ahead. Tell me how.
It changes how you look at him. He should have won the MVP 2 years ago if he doesn't get hurt. That's his MVP for sure. If he wins that Super Bowl a couple years ago, you look at him differently. We would have looked at him way differently, but because certain things that happened, sure. This time, if he's able to go out there and beat Patrick Mahomes, which only Tom Brady's been able to do, that doesn't change our viewpoint on Jalen Hurts as a player in this league. Since I don't want to say quarterback because that's disrespectful to the quarterbacks out there, right?
Yo, Pat Mahomes beating this Eagles team is far more impressive than Jalen Hurts beating the Chiefs. Does that make sense? Because it is, in my opinion, because the Eagles are the best football team I've seen in terms of just pure roster construction in the last 10 to 15 years. No, for real. Like, I have not seen a better football team from top to bottom in terms of talent everywhere, Pro Bowlers everywhere. Right? So Pat Mahomes doing this and going up there and beating him is more impressive. And it's not because you're beating Jalen Hurts, because you're beating the collective. The story's not about Jalen Hurts, it's about the collective. That's my point. It's about the whole group because it's a great team. When Pat Mahomes does it, he's doing it with Dollar Tree wide receivers. When Jalen Hurts does it, he does it with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley. One thing is far more impressive than the other. By the way, one guy was still good.
I hear the narrative.
But is it a narrative? Is it true?
So is Stafford not a good quarterback then? Because he won a Super Bowl with the big time roster. Cooper Kupp's historic season. Aaron Donald, great defense.
We can play this game. We can play this game. We can play this game because
shuffle up and deal, Greg. We're playing
in Detroit. Stafford cooked with less for years. He was one of the best passers in the league, widely respected. We knew what he was going into it. We all know that Jalen Hurts is not the passer that Stafford is. We know it. We all like it's like Lamar, same thing. Like Lamar is an incredible player. He's already proven that. He's a top 5 quarterback in the sport. We know that. So no matter how much the Ravens stacked the deck for him in his favor, we're going to look at his championship differently than Jalen Hurts. It's not the same. It's not the same. Jalen Hurts is a beneficiary of being on a great football team since he's gotten here. That's all I'm saying. And I think we have to look at it that way. Okay, he's got a great horse, and he's riding a horse. He's on a great horse, a thoroughbred. He's on a thoroughbred. Some dudes over here riding donkeys and nonsense like that.
So but you're saying there's an asterisk.
One leg shorter than the other.
Of course there is.
Of course there is. Of course there is.
So does his legacy stay the same? Does he grow at all in legacy? At all?
Yeah, give him a couple legacy points. I can do him that, and that's fine. But am I gonna talk about Jalen Hurts differently? Am I gonna be like, oh, he's a great quarterback? Am I gonna say because he won the Super Bowl, he's a great quarterback? No, I'm not. Like, and
you don't just stumble to the Super Bowl though, Greg.
Apparently, you do. I mean,
yo,
that's how they got here.
He got carried to the Super Bowl. He made some big plays along the way. He's a big part of it. The tush push doesn't work without a guy who can squat 700 pounds. I understand that, but. Like he's the conductor. The train was already moving, man. Like he's the conductor. He's making this thing go. That's great. He deserves credit for that. He's not a great quarterback. He's not a top 5 quarterback. He's not a top 10 quarterback. He's in the 13 to 15 range.
To your point, without a conductor, what happens to the train?
That's great, and he deserves credit for that. That's fine. He's a point guard. Do I tell you John Stockton the best point guard in NBA history? And he don't even deserve that comparison.
He's better than CP3 though, right?
No, don't do that.
He ain't even a top 10 quarterback, Greg. Where are we putting him?
Let's go. Well, you want to do this?
I'm interested. Personally.
Let's do this. Okay. Josh Allen. I'm just going in no order. Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud. Who else? Dak Prescott. Who else? Who else we got? Dak Prescott's better than Jaden. Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts.
He said Dak Prescott's better than Jaden Daniels. So
no, don't do that. Don't do that. Who else we got here?
I'll see you on first day, Greg.
Did I say Matt Stafford already? Did I say Matt Stafford already?
Yeah, Matt Stafford.
I said Matt Stafford. Who else we got?
You at 6 right now.
6.
Bro, I really like Teddy Bridgewater coming back to the NFL. That's probably what you're about to
say. Jared Goff is better than him.
He's the same archetype then, by your logic. Jared Goff's been carried by that running game and defense all year.
Jared Goff is a better pure passer of the football than what's his name? Than Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. Okay, so we at 7.
It's apples and apples. They're the same guy.
I've got 8 guys already, by the way. Okay, 8 guys already. Who else we got? I'm not going to any other rookies, any other guys, rookies in this class. Who else we got? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say Caleb. That's disrespectful. I'm not going to say.
How about
I'm not going to do that.
How about Herbert and Kyler Murray?
Oh, excuse me, Herbert and Kyler Murray. That's 10 right there.
A lot of winners in that talk.
Don't matter. It don't matter. It don't matter. Don't do that. If you put Herbert on the Eagles, what would happen? They would be unbeatable.
We can play the hypothetical game.
Yeah, whatever.
Where's Geno? Whatever. Is Geno above Jalen Hurts?
Yeah,
I thought about Geno. Yeah, I thought about Geno, but Geno's not better than him. Geno's not better than him. I got 10 guys. I got 10 guys. I don't know which one. Is anybody obvious? I'm not. I'm
maybe like Jordan Love. Did we even touch on him for a second?
You didn't say Jordan Love, and I know you love Jordan Love.
I'm a fan of Jordan Love. I do think Jordan Love is a better quarterback than him. I think Jordan Love struggled this year. I think he's a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts.
It's a bummer that he lost to him. Twice.
To your point, before you started your list, you did say he was in the 12 to 15 range. According to the list you
11.
Did, he's 12th because you got Jordan Love over him. So that
there you go.
12 to 15 range.
There we are. I mean, I just wanted to hear the list because Dak Prescott getting a lot of brownie points, man, for the longest drought of NFC Conference Championship history.
Dak plays for the Cowboys. So there's some stink you can't outrun. You can't outrun some nonsense, and so that's different. Okay, Dak Prescott is a far better processor of defenses and thrower the football. Put Dak Prescott on the Eagles, man. Unbeatable. I'm telling you, unbeatable.
Yo, put Shaq on the Eagles.
Whatever.
Your logic.
Where's LeBron?
If you want to play this game, then you could tell me what exactly Jalen Hurts does better. besides running the football than Dak Prescott? Tell me right now. Go ahead. I'm waiting.
He's a
Tell me
better
what he does.
leader. He's a better
He's
leader.
better. Oh, because he reads sermons in the locker room every day. Okay, great. Well, give me something that's tangible. What else? You love doing that. Wait, what else?
Jalen Hurts actually got the dual threat ability. Dak can't move. Ever since that ankle injury, that man can't move.
Tone what I say. Did I say besides running? He can run the ball. He's a running back. He's fine. What else?
I guess that knocks him down a little bit because he's flexible. He can run a little bit. I mean,
I didn't say that.
He's an athlete.
What does he do better as a quarterback than Dak Prescott? That's my question for y'all.
He pushes tush better. I'm just gonna say it.
He pushes people in the ass better. Okay, there you go. It's not a long list, man.
He's cheaper too. Value. There's value in Jalen Hurts.
There's value in that. I'm with you on that. That's fine. He should be cheaper, by the way. He don't deserve as much money. I'm just being honest.
Fair.
Yo,
sorry, John.
No, it's no apologies. This is I knew what I was doing putting this on the docket. This is great content. You watching it, you listening to this. Hey, at some point you're gonna have to pay for this type of content. This is free. This was absolutely great content right there. So with that in mind, right? The Patriots, the Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl again. We had Griff on earlier, not this year, but last year, talking about the Chiefs. They just figure out ways to win. It doesn't make any sense. You want to root against them. You try to think of a team. Oh, maybe this team can win. Maybe this team can win. They're back in the Super Bowl. Regarding this Chiefs team, what is the ideal team, the makeup of a team that can beat the Chiefs? Mahomes has been in the league for 7 years. Out of the 7 years, he's either been in a Super Bowl or in an AFC Championship game 5 years. You're starting a team. What type of team are you creating? What type of game plan are you having in set to actually beat a Patrick Mahomes team?
To start this conversation off, I think you can't be one-dimensionally strong. You have to be a balanced defense across the board. When you let the Chiefs be able to do a consistent 3-4 yard rush attack on top of Mahomes being able to roll out of the pocket a little bit, on top of them being able to take the deep shot sometimes and then get it to Travis Kelce on the intermediate routes, if you give them their full tool and arsenal, that's when they beat you across the board. So when teams are really good at the run defense, we're like, oh, they're going to slow down Pacheco. That's great. But then that opens up enough time for, Mahomes to get down the field across the board. But what I like about this Eagles defense, like we were kind of talking about, Greg, was like, they're ready. They're built. They're built for this kind of thing. They have both. They can stop the run in the middle. They got, obviously, Jalen Carter becoming a Pro Bowler across the middle. They got linebackers, because if you look back, the Bills are still having nightmares about Patrick Mahomes taking apart the middle of the field. So you have to construct your team from the inside out. That's why I was so bummed. Not even that bummed because I hate the 49ers, but they were built to beat the Chiefs last year. They had Fred Warner. They had Greenlaw, but Greenlaw went down with that Achilles. You need to start with those linebackers that create a presence in the middle where they can take advantage of those intermediate routes and force them to play the deep game or rely on the run. So that's really, if I was a GM, I'm just building an all-around defense. Don't just have one philosophy in place where we're going to take away the deep ball or we're going to take away the middle halfback dive run. You need kind of, and I know it's almost impossible to come up with this kind of scenario, but the Eagles are kind of prepped for this situation. So that's how I would kick it off if I was building a team like Howie Roseman kind of did.
Yeah, the answer is the Eagles, by the way. They're the team you would construct to beat Pat Mahomes. You would just hope that the quarterback plays well, like above his head, like he did last time they met up in the Super Bowl. That's it. If there's one thing I wish I could change about the Eagles, is I want my quarterback to be a better thrower of the football and throw on time and get things done in that way. I'm just being honest, man. But if he does what he does last year, like he deserved to get a win in the Super Bowl last time he played based on his play. Jalen Hurts, he played amazing. Can he do it again? Because you're going to need to beat that team. That's the thing. You can't go out there and go 16-18 for 200 to 202 yards with two tush pushes. You can't do that. You have to get 300 yards. You're not beating Chiefs just doing the same nonsense you do. And guess what? The Chiefs ain't letting Saquon run crazy on them. I'm letting y'all know right now. Saquon not going to be going for 150 to 200, banging his head on the goalpost, you're sliding into the end zone, doing that celebration waves his arms in the air. It's not going to happen. They're a really disciplined run defense, and they're going to blitz the heck out of Jalen Hurts in key moments like they did against Josh Allen. If you can shut down Josh Allen, you can shut down Jalen Hurts. Trust me, you can have success. So, look, the defense is going to be prepared to play. They have the advantage defensively against those offensive players, but Andy Reid's a mastermind, and Mahomes is the best quarterback we've ever seen with Tom Brady, 1A, 1B. But if he wins the Super Bowl and gets a three-peat, you're going to have to start having that conversation. You're going to start to have to look. You got to put him above Tom Brady, bro. The success early, a three-peat in this league, in football, where injuries happen and the unexpected happens all the time, for him to get a three-peat this early in his career with all of his career left in front of him, yeah, he has to be looked at as the greatest quarterback of all time. And if he isn't now, he certainly will be when it's all said and done. Fair? And I love the way Tom Brady played the quarterback position. Now that I have a better understanding of what playing quarterback in the league is, when he was playing, it was easy to hate him and hate he played for a Boston sports team. I hate them all. But he was masterful playing the quarterback position. And that is why when I hear people praising a Jalen Hurts, it's something you can't praise him, but we talking about legacy for Jalen Hurts. He can't even look, man. I mean, the pocket manipulation, throwing with anticipation, playing on time, taking what the defense gives you, which he does a good job of. I'll give him that. He does do a good job of that. Hitting the deep ball, man, it ain't even a conversation. There's nuance to just the quarterback position, man. So much nuance. Jalen Hurts is a bull in a china shop.
Hey, he bullied his way to 2 Super Bowl appearances. So, I mean,
did he bully his way to 2 Super Bowls? Did the Eagles, as a group, get there? And was Jalen Hurts along for the ride?
You love pushing that narrative.
He got in a Corvette.
If it was up to you, he'd be in the CFL by next year. So
I didn't say all that.
He's an average quarterback.
Hey, Miles, real quick before you go. If we put Jalen Hurts on the Jets right now, what would his career be like? Let's do it. This is so good. Would his sermons lead them to Super Bowls?
We'd win. We'd be winners.
Oh, you would? You would? Yeah. You sure about that?
He's a winner. He's won everywhere he's gone. You can't say that he hasn't. He's a national champion. He's made it to 2 Super Bowls. You the guy. I mean, the guy's not even. He doesn't even have a bad record off the field. You think that?
Tones literally asked, "What does a team need to do to build to stop Patrick Mahomes?" And somehow we're
talking about Jalen Hurts. I was like, I don't understand.
We're not even talking about the offense.
I'm mad it even came up in the first place. I'm mad it came up in the first place.
Jesus. Go. So to beat Patrick Mahomes, what you're gonna have to do, I feel like you have to get out to an early lead, and with the D line that they have, put pressure on them. They got Josh Sweat. You got Jalen Carter coming up the middle. The run defense for them has been really, really good for the last 3 months of the season. So for them to stop Kareem Hunt, stop Pacheco, make them a passing team, make them forced to throw the ball at least 40 times in the Super Bowl, and contain Patrick Mahomes. Like, the thing that he's always killed teams with is his timely scrambles out of the pocket that kill you. You think the drive's about to end, and then 3rd and 5, he scrambles for 20 yards. You can't let that keep happening. That's what happened in the last Super Bowl that killed them. He had a couple huge runs that, takes the wind out of your sails a little bit. So put pressure on him, keep him in the pocket. I think they do have enough in the secondary to, defend what the Chiefs have at receiver. So if they're able to do that, I think they have a great chance to win and to end this bid for a three-peat. But don't let Greg tell you that they're not the underdogs. Like, they're the favorites. They're the favorites in the Super Bowl. Flat out. Like, you can say the Eagles are a juggernaut. They've got God and Poseidon on their team. Like they're good. They're great. But you got Patrick Mahomes. This is the debate all the time. Like Patrick Mahomes is the outlier in this whole thing. Like he just finds a way to win. So I don't want to hear the whole Philly. Yeah, sure, they can beat this team, but I mean, how many teams have? Like Tom beat him because it was Patrick Mahomes versus everybody else in that Super Bowl. So I'd like to see the Eagles finish the job, but I don't know.
Yeah, to go off of what Miles was saying there, you have to get the Chiefs off of schedule across the board. They're always playing on their own time across the board. They're never in a 2nd and 13. They're never in a 3rd and 9. You got to get them in a position where they have to call things they don't want to call, and they make Mahomes make throws that he doesn't want to make. When the rush is 3rd and 4 and Patrick can get out of the pocket for a second, he's not going to do that on 3rd and 9. He's going to have to rely on Xavier Worthy or this mind meld with Travis Kelce to come together, or DeAndre Hopkins to show himself up, even though he's telling the media that he's always been there. Like, there's going to have to be those moments where you get him off schedule. And it sounds simple and plain, but every analyst says that in the business. The only way to win big games is to make them be on a different time zone in that game. And I haven't seen once in these entire playoffs, even when the Chiefs are losing, that they're behind schedule of what they're trying to operate on the offensive side.
I think that's a great point because the Chiefs, they put out a stat. I forgot who did this, but it was on a podcast. Put out a stat when you look about the playoffs with under a minute, ball in your hands, going down the field. You need a score to win, to tie, or go into overtime. Drew Brees was like 3 of 6. Peyton Manning was about 46%. Tom Brady is about 52%. Patrick Mahomes, 6 for 6. Look, y'all need a lead, a nice lead. If it's close, that's the Chiefs' game to win. Don't let it be close. And that's obviously, I'm sitting here on my porch. That's easier said than done, of course. But somehow, some way possible, you need a lead. It can't be close with Patrick Mahomes. We've seen it time and time and time and time again. They just know how to win. In a close game, they know how to win every single time. And they have the confidence too. That's the thing that nobody on that team is for 1 second going to be thinking like, oh, dang, is it a Jayden Daniels situation where he throws a Hail Mary and it works out? Oh, wow. Okay. It worked out. No. Every single player on that team knows they down by 3. They down by a touchdown. Hey, let's just give Pat at least 15 seconds. Pat just needs 15 seconds. That's all. And he'll figure it out. Outside of the Super Bowl, there's been some stuff happening in the NFL. There's been some coaching hires. We talked about, obviously, Aaron Glenn last week. We talked about my man Ben Johnson over there in Chicago. The new hires that we also have, we're going to start off over in Las Vegas. Griff mentioned it earlier. Pete Carroll did what Belichick would not do. He sat out a year. We'll see if he learned from him sitting out and went back and got a head coaching job. Pete Carroll's back in NFL. What's your thoughts on the hire? And is this the best division in the AFC regarding coaching from all the teams?
I would say so. I mean, you got Harbaugh, you got Carroll, you got Tomlin. Not even Tomlin. Excuse me, wrong division. We stole out west. Reed, and then the Broncos got Peyton. The coaching pedigree in this division is unreal. It's unreal. So yeah, I would totally agree with that. And Pete Carroll's going to make your organization functional at very best. Now, am I as excited as maybe people over there are? They hired a proven coach, so they deserve to have a little bit of optimism of where they're going, but they don't have a quarterback. So none of it matters to you if you have a quarterback. As any team without a quarterback in the history of this sport understands, if you don't have a guy to lead your franchise and play quarterback and throw the football or do tush pushes, then you can't go anywhere. then you can't go anywhere, and you're not going to win a bunch of games, and you're certainly not going to be in competition for Super Bowls. So I'm cautiously optimistic about it. He's also old as molasses. And so we got to see how long he's going to be doing this thing, right? I think this is a transitional coach. We got if a bridge coach, if you will. That's what he is. He's the bridge to the next guy, whoever they feel is the next shiny new coach on the market, the next hot coordinator that comes out. They can probably go after him and transition out of Pete Carroll pretty easily, because he should certainly be retiring at this age as well. So yeah, it's exciting for Raiders fans, but until you get your quarterback, it don't matter. And you're picking 6 because you won some games that you shouldn't have won. Pierce gave you the middle finger on the way out, as he should have.
Yeah, it's interesting across the board. You bring up a lot of good points there, Greg. Personally, I'm super excited for Pete. I obviously love Pete here in Seattle here, but I also think it's a good hire for this reason. He knows he's not the next 10 years head coach. You know, the Bears are like, Ben Johnson, we want you here for 10 years. We want you to be some incredible coach, etc. But that's not even going to happen in its own right. When you think about Pete Carroll, he's a complete competitor. He's a locker room builder at the end of the day. People want to play for Pete Carroll. He's not going to be teaching the newest schemes. He's not going to be telling offensive linemen to run trick plays and Philly specials. He's just going to build a culture that the Raiders haven't had since they moved to Las Vegas. Talk about a place you don't want to go just because of bad juju at the end of the day. Whether it's on or off the field, instances within their players, the area of Las Vegas is still growing in terms of a sports market. To bring in a guy like Pete Carroll, who's a proven winner, and a guy that players rally behind, even Marshawn Lynch coming to his press conference 10 years after they played together the last time, that's exactly what you want for this organization. So what the Raiders need to focus on doing is going and finding the next Ben Johnson, whether that's an assistant somewhere in Minnesota right now or somewhere in Detroit, even though they're getting picked off left and right. Go look around the Denvers of the world, the Chiefs of the world. Try to find a young assistant who can be the offensive coordinator, maybe be the QB's coach, maybe this, that, or the other. Because what Pete Carroll can do is coach up a rookie quarterback. So whoever they go get, I expect them to make some moves and try to go get one of these guys, even though I'm not terribly high on anybody in this class. I think Cam Ward has the most upside, but he's going to be off the board pretty quick. So unless the Raiders are ready to mortgage a little bit of future, I don't know if that's worth it. So this can be kind of a transitional year where Pete Carroll is simply rebuilding a locker room, rebuilding a franchise's name. And he's only going to say positive things all year, and they're going to be competing way harder than they did for Antonio Pierce, way harder than they did for teams prior, and we're going to be able to get this kind of black cloud off of this organization, quite literally. You know what I mean? Like there's just a storm brewing over this organization, and I just feel Pete Carroll brings a sense of light at the end of the tunnel. So we all know it's a 4-year experiment, but if we can get an assistant in that's learning and training up and then can take over for a quarterback they take either this year or next year, I think the Raiders made the right move here personally.
I mean, this is Tom Brady. You know, they brought him in to kind of, help out with ownership and make moves that way. So him bringing in a new GM and Pete Carroll, I'm intrigued. I want to see how this pans out. I mean, this roster's not good, so they're going to have to figure out what they do quarterback-wise, because the starter isn't on this roster, whether that's they go out and pay money for Sam Darnold, or they bring in a bridge quarterback this year to, get ready for the QB class next year. But like you said, Pete Carroll, usually wherever he's gone, college, pros, he's figured out a way to win and bring in the right coaches to help him achieve that. So it's about kind of like building or regaining some pride in Las Vegas. It's a new stadium. This team feels like they've got to do something. Like they made that big move to Vegas. You've got to start winning. Like you can't make this big change and spend all this money and you're putting out a trash product. Like that's why you couldn't just gamble with one of these other guys that are newer and haven't coached before. Like bringing in a veteran coach was a smart move, but the next move is their most important, figuring out the quarterback situation.
Speaking of, you mentioned bringing in a veteran, bringing in somebody that's done it before. The Patriots hired Mike Vrabel, which we talked about last week that was probably going to be the case. Actually, it did happen. Regarding Mike Vrabel hire, how much better do you think the Patriots will be because of the Vrabel hire?
I don't love that hire for Drake May. I'll be very honest. I don't love the hire for Drake May. I think Vrabel, he's a good rah-rah guy and everything, and cool. I'll bite your kneecaps, all that nonsense. He'll get guys excited, but I don't know how he revolutionizes an offense and has ingenuity to it, adds ingenuity to the offense, and brings creativity to an offense as well. I hope he brings a great offensive coordinator in because he's going to need one that can speak to Drake May and get the best out of Drake May as well, right? You need Drake May to live up to the billing, and he's talented. He's really, really talented, obviously. It goes without saying. I have the utmost faith that he's going to become a great quarterback in this league. But it's about what you're surrounded by, right? Jaden Daniels had Cliff Kingsbury. That's a damn good OC to pair him up with. You need to make sure you pair him up with the right OC if you're going to bring in, Vrabel. And I'm not saying he can't bring the right OC in and he can't get the best out of Drake May, but that should be the main prerogative. It's actually less about team building and more about him, because if your quarterback hits, everything else will fall into place. If you don't believe me, see Washington, see the Texans, okay? See those two organizations and see how they flip completely over because they got the right quarterback there in place over there as well. So that needs to be the main prerogative. But I understand the hire. I just wish they didn't let the door hit what's his name on the way out. What's my man named Mayo? Yeah. Mayo. They did him dirty. And we all know what that was. But at the end of the day, I think it's a decent hire, and obviously we know Vrabel can coach at a high level. It's just, again, who is going to be the shot caller offensively? Because we know it's not Vrabel.
Yeah, like Miles threw in the chat, Josh McDaniels clearly, coming in there and going to be the Patriots way. They're essentially just rebuilding the Patriots way as they always do there. And I agree, Gerard Mayo had no shot at that role. At the end of the day, they didn't even give him a shot. It kind of feels like the new Schottenheimer's the new guy in Dallas. That's going to be the new Mayo next year after that goes haywire and there's going to be a new set of head coaches. But with Vrabel, I think it was a great hire. I think it was one of the best of the class. Now, it all comes down to personnel at the end of the day. Who is Drake May throwing the ball to? We hope Jalen Polk was going to take a step. Kendrick Bourne is ever going to ice those hamstrings. Hunter Henry's pushing 40 at this point. Like, look, come on, guys. Drake May didn't have a shot no matter who was coaching that team. I think they go out and get Travis Hunter. We experiment with the CB versus wide receiver position. If I'm them, I'm starting him at wide receiver because you have Christian Gonzalez and other guys at CB that already can be on that side of the ball. And then you look at the offensive line and maybe you might as well get double dip on the wide receiver position in this year's draft because they're going to be undervalued. They are a little, as years past, we will see some guys taken off the board too early, but there's some guys deeper in this draft that you can get in the second, third round that people are going to like across the board. And it's going to be kind of like the running back of last year if I had to place this wide receiver class. And so get some weapons, let Drake May be able to throw somewhere, have some protection, and then, just hope for some health on the defensive side. They traded away Uche to the Chiefs, which I thought was a good move, but they got some assets back, use those assets to get another Uche or two. And so, I don't think this is a year one. We're not going to see a turnaround right away, but we're going to see a little bit more buy-in. I think we're going to see a little bit more buy-in from a coach that knows how to be a head coach. That's the difference between Vrabel and Mayo. He knows what it's like. Players will rally around the fact that they have a guy with experience. Mayo, unfortunately, was still building that experience. I don't think he got enough time to build that. So I'm interested to see what the Patriots do there, but I do think it was a good hire overall, being with Vrabel's success previously.
I think this is one of the best jobs available just because they have the quarterback in place. They have a top pick in this draft and draft picks in this draft, and they have the most cap space going into free agency this year. So Vrabel, people are going to want to play for that guy. So they're going to be able to pick some good free agents, bring them in, try to fit what he's been able to do. Like he took that Tennessee team where you got Ryan Tannehill and you can take him to the AFC Championship game. Like, I believe in this guy Vrabel and what he does as a coach. So for him to take this job, it felt as the season went on like it was a lock basically. Like Mayo, They're saying, oh, they're going to give him another year. Once he started interviewing for other jobs, it was like, all right, this has to happen now. Otherwise, we're going to lose out on the perfect candidate for the Patriots. Like he grew up in the Patriots way, basically. So, yeah, they could flip this thing this year within the next 2 years just because they have a good quarterback. They've got a veteran OC in Josh McDaniel who, if you put weapons out there, like you've got free agents like T. Higgins, you got moves you can make trade-wise. You can put pieces around him. So that's, I think, why Vrabel was so locked in on this job.
Yeah. And to go back to the Raiders for half a second here, Tone, we talk about the quarterback position and what we could go get Darnold, maybe try one of these quarterbacks. What happened to Ryan Tannehill? Where's he? What? That's a veteran that's been sitting, icing those old knees of his, and he's the perfect guy to come in and bridge up a quarterback. Say you want to take a Quinn Ewers or something, or a Will Howard in round 2, and you just want to see what you got. Because Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, we kind of know what we have there. But, you look at Ryan Tannehill, nobody's reported on this, so I'm not trying to say that I've seen this somewhere or whatnot, but I guess I'm reporting this. Why don't we look at Ryan Tannehill for a second? Because I think he's still got, speaking of Mike Vrabel, he's still got a little bit of legs left in him, but Callahan and Will Levis, that whole situation in Tennessee wasn't going to be a good place for him right now.
2 more. You mentioned the Cowboys hire. We know how we are on the show. We ain't even going to talk about them. It's a terrible situation. Terrible on all fronts. We'll probably talk about them once the season starts. And like Griff said, it'll be in position where he's out of a job, unfortunately, as well. Because the person that's still in charge, Jerry Jones, that's the biggest issue over there with Dallas. But another team that kind of has an issue, he might do well, but based off of the press conference, that's why I was off the screen. Little technical difficulty. I was trying to get the video for y'all. I'll have it in the post edit. But Duval, yeah, the Jaguars, they hired Liam Cohen. Now with him being there, I think one of the main reasons why he got the job is because what he did with Baker Mayfield. Do we think his hiring can help bring out the best of Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, I think I think he can help Trevor Lawrence. I do. You have to respect what he did over there, but I think the thing that people forget about Liam Cohen, and it's really, really important, is that he had a great offensive line in place with the Buccaneers that was there, that he inherited from it. And I think he may have, there actually isn't even overlap, that he inherited from the Tom Brady era there, because you had Tristan Wirfs, you had Jensen, you had all these guys on the interior that could play. They have a really good infrastructure with the offensive line over there, and that allowed him to run the football and then marry the run to the pass with and throw the ball to guys like Mike Evans and the guy Godwin as well, right? So you're not going to the same situation here. Obviously, you have Brandon Scherf, on the line, and and some other guys on the offensive line as well that can play a bit. And I don't think offensive line is like a turnstile over there. It's not as big of an issue as it is in other places, but nonetheless, Trevor Lawrence spent a lot of time on his back this season. He did. If you look at the numbers, he spent a lot of time on his back. He did, and I think he lost confidence in that offensive line, which in turn turns into him not playing good football. I do think that's part of it, because he has Brian Thomas Jr. to throw the football to. He has Christian Kirk. This is not an Evan Ingram. This is not a receiver problem. This is not a weaponry problem. He has plenty of weapons to throw the football to. This is about the offensive line playing good football in front of him, and then his internal clock, can get back to normal, and he can go through making his reads and being the all-world talent everyone said he'd be coming out of college. And he can throw the ball really well. He's a great pure thrower of the football. You can see it, but it's about the offensive line infrastructure there, so he has to fix it. And Liam Cohen did speak about that publicly, saying the offensive line is his top priority, as it is for most teams in the NFL who don't have a good offensive line. So it's easier said than done to fix it. We're going to have to wait and see if they do. The GM hire is probably more important than the head coach hire over there, because the guy who's making the picks to refill the talent over there and get new talent in the pipeline over in Jacksonville, that guy is going to be the make or break hire for that organization, because Liam Cohen can only play with the cards he's dealt. You got to give him some aces. Right now they got a bunch of jokers, so they got to figure that part out.
So we had a sucker reference earlier, and we have a Joker's reference. Now this is I got some great content here. I'm gonna get you, sucker. Miles and Griff, any thoughts on the Liam Cohen hire?
I think it's pretty simple at the end of the day. When it comes down to, I'm a little bit excited. I put it as kind of a B- hire, if you will, on my kind of trackers, because I'm optimistic, but I'm also a little bit cautious because of the things that Greg was saying. Liam's not going into the best situation, that you will. But I do think the GM hire, I think they're going to move in a new direction in terms of team building and personnel. Hopefully they're active in free agency. We obviously see a ton of offensive linemen move around. I hope my Seahawks are active as well. And I know the Cowboys fans are hoping they're active. Like, a lot of teams are going to be active that are kind of these middling teams that are looking to fully take that step instead of the step back that they took this year. But I think what's interesting about Liam is, yes, he had a great offensive line, but he also just brought creativity to the game. Doug Peterson brought a lot of consistency and a lot of understanding to the game that helped Trevor, but he also brought a really consistent flow that everybody knew what was going to happen. I didn't feel like anybody was caught off guard. I don't remember any plays from the season where I was like, holy cow, they really caught this team off guard with this whole drive that they ran. There's just no creativity. I think Doug Peterson took the job, he enjoyed it for a little bit, but then ran out of his creative juices on that side. Liam Cohen's young, he's ready to go, and I think at the end of the day, he was able to bring out the best of Baker with the help of Dave Canales. I think a lot of people forgot that Canales was running the show for a little bit until he took the Panthers job. So that's really important there. But Cohen was learning from Canales. So the fact that it was a seamless transition where nothing stepped back in the Buccaneers organization should be the confidence you want as a Jaguars fan. So I think Liam Cohen's coming with a fresh perspective. I don't know if he has kids, but he's giving off corny dad vibes. At the end of the day, he's just saying all the sayings that everybody has in these days. And yeah, sure, do that, but at least he's not Adam Gase looking like he's on crack on the podium. He's just saying Duval. People are trying to compare him to him, but that's unfair. I just think he's excited to be there, and he's just a genuinely weird guy at the end of the day. So I'm excited to see what he brings to the table.
Duval. Hey, so is Greg has made it apparent and obvious that he would have loved, not Greg, my bad, Miles made it apparent and obvious that he would have loved to have Clint Kubiak to be a part of the Jets coaching staff. The Seahawks got Clint Kubiak. Thoughts on that hire, and what could we possibly see from that Seahawks offense next year?
All right, shout out to my friend Boone real quick. I know he's going to listen to this. He's one of my best friends. I'll see him this weekend. He was big on not hiring Clint Kubiak, but I'm high on Clint. I think he's got what he had us talking about. I remember I had you guys on the podcast where the Saints started 2-0, and we were like, wow, did we underrate the Saints for a second when they were fully healthy? Can we just remember that the Saints then went on a path of the most unhealthy team the rest of the year? They weren't just bad on paper. They then got hurt and had to play these other guys. Clint brings that new, fresh perspective from all of the coaching trees that you want across the board. So as a Seahawks fan, he's on the same timeline as Mike McDonald. They're both young coaches. Ryan Grubb was coming from the college game. We now have a NFL coach coming over from the NFL game. He's not looking for a promotion. He's taking this job knowing he's going to be a coordinator for a while. He can't be motivated by, I could take up next the Seahawks head coaching job, because Mike McDonald's younger than him. He's not going anywhere. And so his motivation is to get a head coaching job. So he's going to come into this situation with a better cap situation, better player personnel, and be able to bring out the run game a little bit, because that's what the Seahawks are missing. Yes, we need to address the offensive line first so that both sides, the quarterback and the running back, can get to work a little bit better. But I'm hyped about it. So yeah, Miles, I'd be upset too if we missed out on Clint, because he was a big time hire this year, and I was rooting for it personally as a Seahawks fan.
Hey, it was a good look. We'll see. I know there's other names out there like Nick Caley. He's another option for the OC circuit right now. I know for the Jets, they're looking at different guys from the Lions. So, becoming like Detroit Lions East or something like that. It'll be interesting to see what we do with the staff. I know we've made some good hires with Steve Wilkes as our DC. So I'm interested to see how we fill out that whole staff. That's a good hire for you guys. I mean, kudos to you guys. You guys have a lot more weapons on offense, I'd say, than we do, and actually a quarterback that's not half in, half out. So he made the right choice.
Last position you mentioned, Saints started off 2-0. They still are in need of a coach. Who do we see possibly that could fill in with this Saints job? Some would say this is probably, out of all the positions that were open, was the worst possible head coaching position out there. Was the Saints for multiple reasons. Just one alone, that Derek Carr contract, like, is not the most sexy, most, desired position. Who do we see that's still out there that could possibly fill this role, or you think would be the best for this role?
You can see like a pump and dump where it's like one and done. Basically, you hire a quarterback to be bad. You hire a coach to be bad for a year, get a top pick for a quarterback, and then find your guy. Because right now, what's really enticing about this job? Like, you've got 30-year-old running back who's still pretty good, but you also have Derek Carr, who is pretty bad. And you're not going to win too many games, and you're not going to be too successful with all those pieces on that offense. Like, this is not a good team. So I know some of the coordinators have already taken their name out of the running for that, because they already know damn well they're going to come into a crap, basically, job. And I saw that the coordinator for the Eagles was possibly the favorite for the job leading up to this. So I feel like it'd be in his best interest to turn it down. I wouldn't take this job. It's like a landmine over there in New Orleans. So I could see them just rehiring the interim from last year. And, the guys like him, the players like him, and then, they'll probably fire him after next year, which sucks that, these jobs work out that way. But, the Saints don't really have much going for them.
I think the Kellen Moore thing could happen. Great. If you give him assurances that he can go through a bad season, and an inevitably bad season, because you have no quarterback, and you're not in a great position to get one in this class. And you tell him, hey, like, you can be bad, and we're going to go after our quarterback in this next great quarterback class in the upcoming draft. Arch Manning, Nico, all them guys, whatever. Then cool. Like, you can probably do that. But I also think the Saints are emblematic of what you're going to see around the league. I think you're going to see the Browns and the Titans, who are up there, those two teams. One of those two teams is going to say, yo, like, I don't know. I'm not in love with this quarterback class. We know there's a great one next year. I'm not saying we're going to be awful enough to get one of these great quarterbacks. No one plays to lose, although some teams do tank. I don't believe that organizations don't try to tank. That don't sell me on that. They do. I think that you're going to see teams take that tact with this great quarterback class in mind for next year. I do believe that they'll punt on some of these guys in this class because it's not the strongest, according to people and what people say. I haven't made my final take on that yet. We haven't talked about it on this podcast, but too much. But I think that's going to happen. I think the Saints are just one of many teams, a couple teams in this draft class, including the Raiders, because they won't have much of a choice, that will make that kind of decision to say, okay, well, we'll get a stopgap quarterback in here, and hopefully we can get our coach in here in place for when we do have the right quarterback in place, when we do get that guy as well. And so I do think teams are going to take that approach. This year, you're going to see a lot of teams deliberately trying to lose football games because they're going to be high on Arch and high on these guys in this upcoming class. And it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out. But I do think you're going to see that. So the Saints, when you think about this Saints situation is not sexy at all. It's a tough time for Saints fans. Tough time to be a person from New Orleans in general. But it'll be interesting to see how they go about handling the situation.
Yeah, ditto to everything that was said there across the board. And what's interesting about all these OCs pulling themselves out is they're going to bring themselves back in if the Saints actually do what they need to do, and that's dump all the cap. They're still paying Michael Thomas from his 18 historic run. Like they're still paying guys that they should not be paying, but that's the decisions they made financially. That's something that they wanted to do what the Rams are doing right now, but they didn't draft and develop guys the way that the Rams have in place, where they're able to bounce back and still be relevant, even though they went all in. And so the Saints unfortunately have to do all this. I think it's best case for Kellen Moore to stay, hopefully win this Super Bowl here in 2 weeks, and then stay like Kingsbury, like the guys across the board, the Joe Brady's of the Bills and whatnot, and just wait till next year. Wait till the Saints actually clean up their act, because I have to imagine in these interviews, because it's not just one-way interviews. The coaches get to interview back and be like, what are you going to do to set us up for success? And if the Saints are telling us we're not going to dump all these contracts, we're not going to move all this, we're not going to actually tank to get better, then I'm not signing up for that. So until the Saints actually face the music here, which they've refused to do for the last 4 years or so, I wouldn't take that job either. I would just promote an interim head coach and let it ride for a season and be the worst team in the NFL.
To your point, Ben Johnson did that. He asked the Bears, what has been the reason that you guys have been ineptitude for years? Which, like you said, is not a one-way interview. And I think that's great that he asked that, because going into a situation like the Bears, going into a situation like the Saints, y'all have sucked. And I'm not about to be the scapegoat. It's great. I think it's one of the best things in the world. We talk about it all the time on this show. It's one of the best things in the world to be a coach. Let me get 15 mil. You fire me. You still got to pay me and stretch that thing out through 10 years. Yes, sir. Please give me that job. Fire me after 1 month. I'm good. You're not going to have me mad in the after interview. Yo, it was a great opportunity. I was glad that they let me coach. I don't want to coach ever again. I'm good. Pay for life. I'm set up properly. I know how to save my money. I know how to budget it. All of that. So definitely something to keep in mind for that Saints position, Saints hire right there. Y'all know the vibes here. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Bench Mob, we out. Peace.